Joining us is Nancy Wozniak, Learning Architect within the TLT Faculty Center. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Graham.
So why is it important that faculty understand their own personal learning styles?
Well, Stephanie brought out the fact that learning styles, or a person's learning style, is the way they react to stimuli and use stimuli to learn. And we tend to teach as we learn. So if we don't understand our own learning style, we might tend to box our students in as we teach and design our courses, deliver our courses into that one little box that is our own learning style, along with the way we have been taught, and we don't want to do that to our students.
Okay. So if I'm a faculty member and I want to become more sensitive to this, how would I go about learning what my style is?
There are various models on learning styles and multiple intelligences, and it's very, very interesting to learn about yourself. There's standardized surveys and tests that you can take. The most popular one, the one we hear about, is the VAC, the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, but there are other multiple intelligence, Gardner's, Kolb's. Very interesting to take these tests, but it's also important to talk to somebody about it if that's not your expertise, and I'm always open to talk about that.
So you'd be able to do an analysis with a faculty member and talk about that?
Certainly, and talk about it.
Okay.
And talk about the ways that they can incorporate some of the concepts into the way they deliver their courses also.
Okay. Are there free tests on the internet, so on, that you can
Lots.
use?
The only thing with that is they're out there. Some are very robust and some are not, and it might be a little misleading. And I don't know about you, Stephanie, but do you notice if you take one of those tests, I can see myself as visual and kinesthetic, tactile, and so you tend to overlap, and it's good to talk about it with somebody.
It's also good, I found, as a teacher, and for teachers to sometimes practice learning in a modality or a style they're not accustomed to, and that can give one empathy for their students. For example, I'm not a kinesthetic learner, and I tried to learn how to ski. Well, that was quite a challenge. And it took until I got the instructor who listened to me and developed a skiing lesson that I could react to that I got down the mountain.
See, and I do the same with auditory. I do have a problem filtering sound and sitting and listening to lectures. And that's what I do now. And I always, when I started out in education, would make myself sit and process information through sitting still in a lecture.
So would there be any advantages to doing an inventory of the learning styles of the students within our class?
Absolutely not. Do not do that. Absolutely not. What you would do when you're designing your course, you design your course first and foremost on the content and meeting those outcomes. That's the most important thing. Then you fine-tune that course with maybe putting a little auditory exercises in, putting a little tactile, visual linguistic, visual, how about spatial, concept mapping. That's what you do. You do not want to analyze and categorize your students because you'll never be able to do that. One of the things I do when I teach, my icebreaker, I use Blackboard, whether it's face-to-face or online, and the icebreaker, for them to get to know each other, I have them go out and take these tests. And they talk about their learning styles and their multiple intelligences and talk back and forth about this. I don't care whether I'm teaching a communications course, or I'm teaching web design or whatever. That's a great icebreaker for any discipline. And then all of a sudden, they're starting to understand this is how I learn, and this is how I can take maybe a faculty that isn't teaching to my learning style, and I can study and turn that content, the delivery, into my learning style. And as students, that's their responsibility, and we facilitate or direct them to be lifelong learners in that sense.
Okay. So if I were to summarize our discussion today, and I'm going to make some statements, I want you guys to jump in and critique them. I would say two things. One, it's important that the faculty understand their learning styles and that they make a conscious effort to deliver at least some part of the material that they're delivering to the students in an alternate style. That they don't allow themselves to box themselves within their own learning style, that they push outside, irrespective of what the audience is like. If they make that effort, they're broadening their reach to the students. And two, that it's important that the student likewise understand their own learning style, because they can make some efforts to translate information delivered in a particular style from the faculty member into a modality that they can learn better from.
Exactly. And when I hear from students, this professor, he's terrible, I'm not learning anything from him, it's like, that's not that professor's responsibility at this point. If he's not teaching to your learning style, turn it around. Turn it around. Get together with other students. If you're auditory, go into a Socratic method. Answer questions with each other, with questions. Do concept mapping, but it's your responsibility to take control of your learning. When you do, you're going to be a happier student and a lifelong learner, a more productive and happier human being.
That was an interesting statement you made about it not being the faculty member's fault. I mean, so many times, particularly as a new faculty member, if you get bad reviews, you immediately think it's your fault. But in fact, to some degree, it can just be a natural incompatibility between how you teach and how the students in your class learn.
Don't you think it often is?
And it's a relationship too, and I think that's why it's so important we have variety and diversity in education. Speaking from the rating program, we honor diversity there. And so I might have a student, and in the first week of class I can get a sense you might do better in Heather McAdams' class. And I'm glad that we have different approaches to teaching, and I learn from her, and she learns from me too. And in the greater writing program, our portfolio system encourages that sort of diversity and faculty learning from each other and building on each other's, bouncing off each other's strengths and weaknesses.
It would be an interesting experiment in at least large classes with multiple sections. If we did an analysis of the faculty learning styles and the student learning styles, and put the faculty and the students with the same learning styles in sections together, I'd love to see what impact that would have on the success of the students within those courses.
The only thing it would, I think you really do have to be exposed to all situations. Because when you go out in the workplace, we can't do that. But I agree, it would be interesting to see what happens.
So that's a good point. In the workplace, you can't choose the learning style of the person you're working with. So you have to learn coping skills and to work with multiple learning styles.
Exactly.
All right, Stephanie and Nancy, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you.
If you have any questions for either of our guests, you can post them on the blog on the TLT website at tit.stonybrook.edu, where the contact information for both of our guests can also be found. I'm Graham Glynn. Look forward to seeing you on the next exciting episode of Innovations in Education.